YouTube, Ben Ochart here. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know, there are a lot of folks out there who, for some reason, love to argue. They'll argue about anything. And I'm not just talking politics and religion and, race equality and things of this nature, the common things you see bannered about. I'm talking about, they'll argue with you about, the best butter, the best. So, at any rate, we see this in fish keeping. There are people out there that get pretty worked up about certain topics, and rather than calmly explaining their position, they get into some knockdown dragouts with other fish keepers. And so, in New York, there's a third rail, and this is the rail that provides the electricity to the subway. And if you ever fall into the tracks, you just have to be sure not to touch that third rail, because you'll be dead. So there are some subjects in fish keeping that have sort of become the third rail. You just don't want to go anywhere near them, and because you're going to end up in an interesting, a very interesting and possibly heated discussion that is, in the end, probably going to not change anything. So, at any rate, I went ahead and conducted a poll, and over at the ben.o.cichlid Facebook group. And here, let me just share with you what came up, and then I'd certainly like to hear your take on it down below. All right? Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the video. Well, rather than a discussion that could just turn into a free-for-all, I conducted a poll at the ben.o.cichlid Facebook group, and the topic was hottest topic which brings about the biggest arguments among fish keepers. And I provided some choices that they could vote on. And in the number 3 spot, with 26 votes, was minimum size of tank needed. And certainly that one can bring about some interesting discussions when we see a fish that we know is going to put on a lot of size, living in a 20 or a 10-gallon or even a 30-gallon like the tank I started off with. And I've certainly given advice to folks when they've asked, and I've told them, get the biggest tank you can afford, the biggest tank that'll fit if you're going to get into cichlids, because ultimately that's where you're going to go. And in the second position, with 47 votes, we got, is it okay to have Buna with peas and haps? And, I belong to a mixed cichlid group that does mix those types of fish, and some folks were able to pull that off. It didn't work for me when my Buna put on size. They started picking on the peacocks too much, and I had to make a choice and ended up concentrating on these fish. And the one with the most votes, 61 votes, is it okay to mix lakes? Certainly early on, I mixed lakes. I had some Victorians, some Vicks, some Tanganicans in here, and it simply didn't work out. They just didn't thrive. Different water requirements, even different ways to scape the tank, would be a little different for each lake. And so they simply didn't make it for me. So again, I had to concentrate on a certain kind of fish. So those were the 3 hottest topics. And granted, there could have been other options, other subjects that could have been included in the poll that might have given me a different outcome or a different result. Some of them that were mentioned in the comments by some of the members included things like best food. If you ever gotten into a food discussion with people, that can get kind of heated. Best filter, best media, and God help you if you should ever get into a discussion on OBs and hybrids. Well, there you have it, my friends. So what has there been a subject that you've run into in fish keeping that has been a bit of a third rail something that you just wanted some information about and threw it out there, and it turned into a free-for-all, into a brawl, let me know. Share it below. Let me know what you have found to be a difficult subject to even bring up among other fish keepers, and share your comments below. And but please don't argue. All right, thank you for tuning in.